Manx Radio's Update with Christian Jones.
Five o'clock on Tuesday the 3rd of February. Fastamai, good evening, I'm Christian Jones and this is Update. Welcome into 30 minutes of all the latest news, sport and travel compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's newsroom. On the way tonight, an advocate specialising in immigration claims the government failed to factor in the cost of supporting families of migrant workers coming to the island. Meanwhile, the next stage in plans for an offshore wind farm off the island's coast is set to begin, and a cat that's been missing for 4 years has been reunited with his owners. All those stories and more on the way for you. As always, drop me a message, text WhatsApp to 166 177, email to studio@manxradio.com. But first, let's get the latest news headlines read by Amy Griffiths. Fastamai, Amy.
Fastamai. An advocate specialising in immigration believes government didn't factor in the cost of supporting the families of worker migrants coming to the island. Maria Brideson's been discussing the challenges of the island's visa system at a public meeting organised by the Positive Action Group. She says education is one area that this has had an impact.
One school in Douglas in the last 3-year period has had 85 arrivals with English as an additional language need. It comes with extra difficulties and an extra cost, which weren't really factored in.
Manx Radio has invited Treasury, which is responsible for immigration, to respond. A number of sailings to and from Heysham this week have been cancelled because of the forecast adverse weather. The 6:30 tomorrow and its overnight return won't now be running. The Isle of Man steam packet says the 8 o'clock Heysham sailing on Thursday morning and its return at 1:45 that day are also subject to possible disruption or cancellation. A Douglas family was successfully reunited with their cat last week, 4 years after he went missing. On Wednesday, the Huttons received a phone call from Vets for Pets letting them know their cat Milo had been brought into the practice. His human brothers, Louis and Noah, have this message for anyone in a similar situation.
Never give up hope. When something's missing...
You're always with your pets.
Yeah, they're always with you in here, aren't they? In your heart.
Turning to international news now, and Downing Street's welcomed Peter Mandelson's resignation from the House of Lords, saying he's let his country down. Britain's former ambassador to Washington will quit tomorrow after files published by the US suggest he passed sensitive information to paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. The UK government's asked police to investigate. X is facing 2 new investigations over deep-fake sexual images generated by its Grok chatbot. French prosecutors have raided its offices in Paris, while here the data watchdog's begun an inquiry. And Nancy Myers, the director behind The Holiday and The Parent Trap, is returning to filmmaking after 11 years. Plot details are tightly under wraps, but the project will star Penelope Cruz, Kieran Culkin, Jude Law, Emma Mackey and Owen Wilson. It's due to be released on Christmas Day next year. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with the news in full at 6.
Amy Gurmayad, thank you very much. Let's take a look at the weather now, brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. A couple of things to be aware of. 2 yellow warnings. One is for snow. That's already in effect. That's going to be in place until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, mostly affecting just higher ground. Coastal overtopping 2. That's going to be in effect from 11 o'clock this evening through till 2 in the morning. And then all the usual places which are going to be affected. Elsewhere, it's going to be cloudy, outbreaks of rain, fresh to strong easterly winds, minimum temperature overnight of 3 degrees Celsius in most places, but colder in higher ground.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate. You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
4 minutes past 5 on Manx Radio's Update. An advocate who specialises in immigration claims government didn't factor in the cost of supporting the families of worker migrants coming to the island. Maria Bridson was the latest guest speaker at the public meeting organised by the Positive Action Group. She told the audience about some of the weaknesses she sees in the current visa system, including how it impacts education and health.
I think it's fair to say that some of the earlier groups of high numbers of migrants from particular communities came on their own, and they left their families overseas and remitted funds to them. Over time, different cohorts of migrants, that's changed. And most recently, there's been about a 37% increase in the dependency ratio the people moving to the island. And that's reflected in things like education. 235 unexpected arrivals in the island schools in 2023. One school in Douglas in the last 3-year period has had 85 arrivals with English as an additional language need. Clearly we need to provide education to both children, but it comes with extra difficulties and an extra cost, which weren't really factored in to the initial project. Healthcare over time, I'm sure everybody's queued, trying to wait long hours at A&E or find GP appointments, and it's also had an impact on health. 2011, it was about 47 GPs per head of population, and that's now shrunk to about 37. During the same period, we've had reductions in things like district nurses, NHS dentists, and the like, and that's increased the pressure on health. And health is one of those really sensitive subjects. So if you're standing in the same queue, having paid in your national insurance since the age of 16, and you see someone in the same queue, but they have greater health needs than yours, and therefore they're ahead of you in the queue, it's one of those issues that builds resentment. And in the UK, that's ameliorated because all migrants pay an immigration health charge up front, and everybody probably feels that's all a little bit fairer. An immigration health charge is promised on the Isle of Man, but as yet there's no concrete plans.
Maria Brighton speaking at the latest Positive Action Group meeting. We have contacted the Treasury, which is responsible for immigration, to respond. Nothing back yet, though. Now, approaching 7 minutes past 5, the next stage in plans for an offshore wind farm off the Isle of Man is set to begin in around a month. The proposal, led by Ørsted, involves building an 87-turbine Moor Vannin offshore wind farm between 6 and 12 nautical miles off the island's east coast. You may have heard of it, but how did the project reach this stage and what happens next? Well, Lewis Foster is here with us now to explain more. Faster, my Lewis, what's the latest on this?
Faster, my Christian. So, yeah, like you say, the next phase will get underway in a month's time. It's exactly a month today, actually, that the examination phase will start. You might remember last year we heard that the Council of Ministers had accepted for examination the proposal put forward by Ørsted. Well, Jamie Baldwin is the director of the Moor Vannin project. He told me what's been happening since then and what exactly this next phase involves.
So we submitted the application back in July, and that was formally accepted for examination, and then the government ran a consultation phase which ended on the 18th of November, and we had nearly 500 responses to that, which is great. And we now have had confirmed the start of the examination. So that is from the 3rd of March, and that starts with what's called a preliminary meeting, and it will be a roughly 6-month process. And that is an independent panel of examiners that will be looking at the application, asking us lots of questions, asking our stakeholders lots of questions, with the view to narrow down the issues and then provide a recommendation to the Council of Ministers, probably in the autumn. Being accepted doesn't mean the application or the consent has been accepted. It's merely that the application has been accepted for examination, and that's now the phase we're in. Yes, we're involved, so it will be our project team, it will be some of our specialist consultants, so some of our consultants who have done the assessments on things like shipping, on fishing, on birds. They may well be involved. The examiners will ask questions on a range of issues that we provided in our environmental impact assessment. They will also aim questions at stakeholders, and particularly in areas where we may not have full agreement with those stakeholders. We've worked really closely with our stakeholders. We have a lot of areas where we do agree, but clearly there are some that will be explored during the examination where there's still a bit of work to go, and we'll be looking to secure mitigation and compromise where required to ensure that we've got, as far as possible, our stakeholders on board and minimising those environmental impacts as much as we possibly can.
Jamie Baldwin, the director of the Moor Vannin offshore wind project, speaking there. So, Lewis, Mr. Baldwin mentioned there that the Council of Ministers had accepted these plans for examination in July last year. Do we know what's been happening since?
Yeah, so a consultation has been held in the meantime. You might have remembered them around October time, during which Ørsted received 477, let's say, mixed responses. This is how Mr. Baldwin described them.
2/3, maybe a bit more, had significant concerns or objecting to the project, and around 25% to a third who were broadly supportive, which is, for the stage we're at, we're okay with. We do, as we find usually, that it's people who have those concerns that speak a bit more loudly. But we want to work with everybody on the island to understand those concerns and, as I say, work with them to mitigate wherever we can.
And so, Christian, the reason we're talking about this now, other than it being a month to the day until this examination phase starts, is that Ørsted has published a revised document outlining what it describes as the benefits the wind farm project could bring to the Isle of Man. For example, it claims around £2 billion will be brought into the island's economy through taxation and rent over the course of the wind farm's roughly 30-year lifespan, as well as £22.5 million to charities and projects through its Community Investment Fund.
So going back to the examination phase, timing-wise, it'll take around 6 months, is that right?
That's the prediction, yes, which puts us into September, right before the general election, of course, meaning when the recommendation comes back from the independent examiners, they'll likely be presenting it to a brand new Council of Ministers.
If the planning application goes through as planned, do we know when we'll see turbines in the water?
Well, Ørsted says it will be expecting a decision from the new Council of Ministers by the end of this year or even the start of 2027. If it's positive consent, the company says it may still be a couple of years beyond that point before any construction begins, and likely into the 2030s.
Lewis Foster, thank you very much.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
No idea where oyster came from. Now, rates across the island are being set by local authorities. Those will pay for things like bin collections, hedge cutting and play areas. Today, Derby, Santon and Garth commissioners have announced their rate for the upcoming financial year. Our local democracy reporter, Emma Draper, has more details.
Garth commissioners says a 5% increase on its rates will cover general inflationary pressures affecting the parish. It's been set at 215 pence in the pound, which will pay for the civic amenity site provision, disposal charges at the energy from waste plant and refuse collection. It says the budget includes a 5-year contract with Manx Utilities to replace inefficient lighting and also upgrades to the campsite. The commissioners add the costs of an election for 2 seats in the Lonnon ward has also required funding. It confirmed that a new vehicle and equipment fund will also be introduced to plan for replacement vehicles and other maintenance machinery. In the north, Derby Parish Commissioners have approved its rate at 177 pence in the pound. This is a 3.7% increase on 2025 when it was 171 pence. The Commissioners said it recognises the financial pressures that residents of Derby are under and have worked to minimise any increase for this year. Whilst in Santon, the Commissioners have set its rate at 196 pence in the pound. It's a 4.8% increase on last year's rate, which was 187 pence. The local authority says the total rate compares favourably with neighbouring parishes.
Emma Draper there, the local democracy reporter. Thank you. Now, will you be heading along to a requisition meeting ahead of this year's House of Keys general election? Typically, the meetings are organised by captains of the parish, giving voters a chance to hear directly from candidates. However, with government now planning to host its own pre-election meetings in each area, concerns are raised that the captain's role could be sidelined. Cabinet Office political member Diane Kelsey, also a member of the Legislative Council, has told Phil Gaughan there's space for both.
If the captains of the parish who've had this role for many years, they can call hustings at any time, requisition meetings at any time on any matter. We need to allow them to be able to do that. And I think there was a concern based on some changes that had happened in the past that they were going to be stopped from doing this. What we're trying to do now with the current bill is to make sure that if a captain of the parish wants to hold 1 or 10 meetings, they're absolutely able to and don't have the interference of the Cabinet Office or anyone from Douglas telling them how to run their meetings. But also that there's a responsibility for us to have a standard of meeting in every constituency, which will obviously cover either in some cases several parishes or in the case of Douglas, several in one city. So it's really important to ensure that the electorate get the chance to see their candidates, and in whatever manner. And in fact, the Lord Bishop raised a really good point. You have community meetings, they can actually, it's closer to the people then. So I still wholeheartedly believe the captain of parish should be able to have their requisition meetings on any matter, including for elections. I'd like to think in when this hits the ground, we actually get even better understanding of what hustings are for elections, but also doesn't stifle local discussion, which may or may not include every single person standing in a constituency, or in some cases, some people cannot attend a meeting and then never get the chance to go to a political husting prior to an election. And that would be unfortunate. So I think there'll be certain standards set, but still allow for local meetings to happen and be called at any point by the wonderful captains of the parish.
Manx Radio Travel, serviced by Quayside Tyres.
Right, let's take a look at the roads to begin with. In Douglas all this week, we've got temporary lights on Finch Road next to the Chester Street car park for sewer work. In Braddon, a short stretch of the West Baldwin Road is closed this week. That's just south of Inchbreck. In the south of the island, a short stretch of Fort Island Road closed until the 2nd of March for the demolition of the old Golf Links Hotel. That closure is in place by the old hotel and onto Fort Island. In Ramsey, we've got temporary lights on Bircham Avenue. That's 24 hours a day for water main work. Down at the steam packet, as we heard in the news, it's all good for today. Tomorrow, though, the 6:30 evening trip from Douglas to Heysham has been cancelled. That's due to weather. Thursday also not looking great, so do keep your eye on that. And down at the airport, everything is looking good. If there is anything that I've missed and you want to update me on it, do text 166 177, email to studio@manxradio.com.
Manx Radio Travel, serviced by Quayside Tyres. Call Quayside Tyres on 664417 to book your free vehicles winter check, so your vehicle is safe for you and other road users.
Later this month, the newly appointed Treasury Minister Chris Thomas will present the final budget of this administration just weeks after taking on the role. And what's announced will affect every one of us. So that's why Manx Radio's giving you the opportunity to put your questions directly to him as part of our Budget 2026 coverage, brought to you by Crow Isle of Man. Join us live on Friday the 20th of February from 5 p.m. at Lukey's at the Best Western Palace Hotel for an open audience discussion with the Minister, which will also be broadcast live on Manx Radio. Tickets are free but limited, so be sure to reserve your place now by visiting manxradio.com. Manx Radio's Budget 2026 coverage, brought to you by Crow Isle of Man.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
18 minutes past 5. How often do you still use a cash machine? Well, a recent survey suggests adults in the UK made an average of 15 trips to ATMs last year, withdrawing around £1,352 in total, a 5% drop compared with £1,424 the year before. Overall, people aged 16 and over made 832 million cash withdrawals during the year, around 9% fewer than in 2024. With banks responding to changing habits and some towns on the island already without ATMs, is the age of the cash machine coming to an end? Well, John Moss has been out asking what you think.
Sir, you're just passing by this ATM, is it? Do you use ATMs quite often to get money out?
I actually do use ATMs because I like the feel of money in my hand, but I'm actually going in the bank now to do a transfer, which again is like, it's not really face to face, it's all pulled away from the fact of having cash in your hand. And I was talking to somebody the other day, it's not just having the money in your hand, even when you're at a shop you don't get the change. When you get your change you get a thank you, goodbye. Now it's like tap your card and you're packing your bag. So the ATMs are very shy.
I like to use cash really is where I can, rather than rely on card. It's just that you can see how much you're spending, and when it's gone, it's gone.
There are certain places in the island, I think Castletown is one, where there are no ATMs. Do you go down there often? Did you find that a problem?
No, I haven't actually noticed that there's no ATM in Castletown. I'm mainly Douglas based, and I would usually get my cash out in Douglas. It'd be handy to have more ATMs that gave out English money.
Like the one at the airport does.
The one at the airport and the one here, but that's all there are really. And if they're out of cash, especially in the summer and you're going away, you are then stuck without having any cash to go away with.
So you'll miss these bad boys if they weren't
I will,
here.
yes I will.
Madam, you just come away from the ATM here. Do you use the automatic machine quite often?
Every week because the post office is shut.
So it's your way really of getting
cash
out?
It's my way of getting me pension out, yeah.
So if it wasn't there...
If the bank was shut and these machines weren't here, then where would you get it from?
John Morse with that report there. Now, last week, a Douglas family received an unexpected phone call from Vets for Pets telling them their cat Milo had been brought into the practice. Well, the surprise, Milo had been missing for 4 years. But thanks to his microchip, he was quickly identified and reunited with his family. His mum Megan says she's beyond relieved. Chanel's been speaking to Milo's human brothers, Louis, aged 9, and Noah, aged 5.
I could remember a few things, and he had this talent where if you put your head in there and we donk it back on your head. I thought it was really cute. And my mum went to the vets, and we were just at home. My mum said, when Milo comes in, we can't straight go to see him because when cats have been long for a few years, they will get a bit shy and need to get settled. Yeah. And then we came in after, and I stroked him on the head a few times. He started purring, and I said Milo, and Milo, and he looked at me like that, so I knew it was Milo. I didn't see that honestly coming, and I could remember that you should never give up hope. When something's missing,
you're always with your pet.
Yeah, they're always with you in here, aren't they? In your heart. And if you give up hope, then there's lower chances you can't find them. So if you keep on trying, there's a chance where you could find it, which is a good opportunity. Because, I'm trying to tell people out there who do have missing pets to, never give up hope.
Well, I don't know about you, but Louis sounds like he'll end up being an inspirational speaker in years to come. Well done to that family, and big shout out to Vets for Pets for bringing their cat back to them. Now, Bus Van In held an accessibility session at the Bottleneck car park today for those wishing to use mobility scooters on public transport. One user who's waited 2,310 days is Eric Corkish. He called the man in line while on the bus.
Today, I'm ringing you from on the bus on my mobility scooter. They've finally got this all in order.
Excellent.
It's taken 2,310 days, but it's sorted now. Well, kind of sorted. It's not perfect, but I'm on the bus, so hopefully that's it all over.
What change is that going to make to your life now?
Quite a lot of changes, I'll be able to get up to Douglas more often. Like I said from the very beginning, one of the things I wanted to do was to be able to get to the NSC, use the facilities there. I'm not quite as fit as I was when I first started this 6 years ago. But that's the kind of thing I want to do, and just be able to come up and do some shopping and go out in the summer, and get on the bus where you don't have to drive, and it'll make a big difference. There is a few things need to be done on some of the pavement. At the minute, I can't get on or off the Ramsey bus station because the stop isn't quite right, and it's actually the same in Douglas. You have to get off in Douglas in Victoria Street, but I've been promised that these things will all be worked on now, and then hopefully in a short period of time, everybody will be able to use a bus on a mobility scooter wheelchair a lot easier.
That's Eric speaking on the man in line. Now let's turn our attention to sport, and netball may traditionally have been associated with women and girls, but on the Isle of Man, the sport is seeing growing interest from men and boys too. So much so, Isle of Man Netball has launched a new mixed performance league to reflect that changing landscape. Darren Timpson and Lewis Foster have been meeting some of the players and organisers behind the move.
So the performance league is taking place on Saturday nights up at the Roundhouse. Last night was the first one, so it was everyone kind of feeling their way into it. Really enjoyed it though. It was competitive, wasn't it? And I think everyone had a good time. It was a good watch as well. Stayed down for the second game after we played.
It's obviously great to have the women down, especially the really good women down, who just show you what you can do on a netball court.
But what do some of the Manx Rams think of men playing netball?
I think it's really good because we've brought the men into netball and we've played against them at in training sessions, but it's really good to make it a bit more competitive, where it means something, and to have that practice against men who have got a bigger jump, a bigger wingspan. So it's more like our international games.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to, I think with the Sunday League, we're playing the same people week in, week out for years. But then you add the men into the mix and you have to adapt your game for like the first time in quite a long time. And I think the men just bring a really nice vibe as well. It just makes it really fun.
Now it was time to talk to two of the people behind the scenes about the challenges faced with getting men into the sport.
It can be quite difficult starting to get more men involved, obviously around kind of the stigma around men's netball. So that's a really important barrier that we are starting to look at facing, but just starting from kind of the ground up. Getting people involved nice and young, so we've got some now younger sessions, especially in the East now, that we can start kind of going from Manx Youth Games straight into club and then hopefully just progressing from there.
And we now have leagues for under 11s, under 16s, under 13s as well. And then once they're 14 or over, they are allowed to play in the senior leagues if they are ready to. If they're not ready to, then they stay in the junior leagues, and everybody's encouraged to play and get on court and just enjoy it. Primarily it's about having fun.
Well, let's stay with sport and we can get the latest brought to you by The Print Shed. Darren Tempson is here with me now in the studio. Faster, what can you tell us?
Faster, there's set to be a new quail on the start line for the 2026 Manx Grand Prix. Ilium's sort of former racer and now TT Rider Liaison Officer Richard Milky Quail has been confirmed to debut for ILR at the event. Racing for Ian Lockyer's team, the 22-year-old will run at Scarborough Meetings, the Northwest 200 and MGB aboard Peyton and Honda CBR 600 RR machinery. He'll make his first appearance in August later this year. In rugby, Isle of Man star Bevan Rodd has made the squad for England's opening match of the 2026 Guinness Six Nations. He'll start from the bench for the Red Roses tie against Wales on Saturday the 7th of February. Rod Sale Sharks teammates Luke Cowan-Dickey and Tom Corrie will also make an appearance from the sidelines, while George Ford starts in the 10. England's match against Wales kicks off at 4:40pm at the Allianz Stadium. And in cycling, Manx Walker, Ben Swift and Becky Storey all competed in the Mapai Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race in Australia at the weekend. Competing on Saturday, Walker recorded a finish of 32, while Swift crossed the line in 60th. Storey, meanwhile, came 71st in Geelong on Sunday's race. The event sees all three riders compete their action in Australia. And on to hockey, where there were 3 wins for Island sides competing in the England Hockey Junior Championships. The under-14 boys beat D-side on Shuffles after a 1-1 draw at the final whistle. The under-14 girls beat Leek 4-2 and the under-18 girls thrashed Chorley Phoenix 6-0. However, the under-16 boys team were beaten 4-1 by D-side.
Gurumide, thank you very much for that, Darren. Well, that is it for Update this evening. Thanks very much to newsreader Amy Griffiths. Up next is Island Life. That'll be followed by Chris Kinley with greatest hits from 6. I'll be back with you tomorrow, so until then, take care. Bye-bye for now.